This week's Photoshop tutorial is all about a Halloween retouch in Photoshop. Hey guys, and welcome back to a brand new Photoshop tutorial. My name is Manny and you can find me over at Retutpro.com, the channel where you get to learn everything about photography and Photoshop in weekly quick tutorials. So in this week's episode, I'm going to teach you guys from A to Z how to retouch a little Halloween picture. So yeah, enough of the talking, let's get right away into the tutorial. Okay, so over in Photoshop, in our right hand side here, in the layers palette, you guys get to see already everything that we want to do. I've also saved everything under version 1, so we can start right on top with this. Now, let's quickly run through what's coming up. It's going to be quite a long tutorial, and sometimes I will stop. I'll rather play music when I do a certain effect because we've shown this tutorial effect already before. Then you can just head back to the channel and have a look where that specific tutorial is with the technique. Okay, let's also have a look quickly. This is the raw conversion, first of all. Then from there, we're going to go over to fixing and healing. Then we're going to add the background to this element. We're going to have a bit of a background light elements. We have some subject cut out, then color and look, the dodge and burn effect, some grunge effect that we showed last week, and final adjustments, and obviously the final save. So yeah, let's get right away into this retouch and start retouching the zombie. Okay, so first of all, what I'll do is basically take out the raw conversion, take it all the way up to the top, and just minimize this again. Okay, so currently you guys see it's also a smart object. So I'm able now to double tap on this and go back into camera raw. Great, so in camera raw now, I want to show you first of all the adjustments and quickly just talk about this. So you can see again, I shot this on a medium 50% gray, charcoal gray backdrop in order for me to later drop in a background very easily. Now, first of all, my temperature set to 4500, a little bit on the cooler side, not too warm. Then exposure still set to 0, contrast still set to 0 because I want to do that all manually later in Photoshop. Then the highlights, I pushed those up to +12. Let's have a look here at 0. They are kind of around here. So I wanted to push up them just a little bit, somewhere to +12, just to get that effect a bit. Then shadows as well. Let's switch this back to 0. So you guys can see the shadows were quite dark. So I wanted to brighten them a little bit. So in Photoshop, I can add contrast, dodge and burn, and kind of do my own little bit of a contrasty effect. So brighten them up a little bit. Then whites as well. Let's push them down to 0. So you guys can see the whites here. They just add a bit of a pop to this image, so +19. They're also brightening up the floor quite a lot. And in Photoshop, we want to darken that a bit again. But overall, I'm getting a bit of a pop here. Then blacks also, like I said, kept to 0 because I want to add manually contrast. Clarity and vibrance also set to 0. And then saturation to -9. So this is also due to that the zombie doesn't have so much color. It looks more desaturated and again a more mysterious grungy look there. Great, let's also move over here just to the detail area, and this would also be around 50 sharpening amount and the radius set again to 0.6 for some really great sharpening here again. So you guys can basically see it here. If I push this up again and go back 0.6 and 50 directly, it sharpens up a little bit again. Great. That's basically all for the raw conversion. I'm going to hit OK and go right away in Photoshop. Now, in Photoshop, our first step would be obviously starting healing, cloning, all of that stuff, liquefying, whatever we need to do. So for this image, we don't need to do too much because it's obviously a zombie. And yeah, the skin is supposed to look very weird. So let's zoom out a little bit again. And first step would be now pressing Command J, duplicate the layer. And I'm going to hit right click here and rasterize the layer, because I don't need a smart object here, and it will save a little bit on my megabytes in the Photoshop file. Great. Firstly, I'm going to rename this to Fix. So basically, you can rename it to whatever you want. I call it Fix, Healing, Cloning, something like that. I'm also going to press Command G here and put it together in a group and rename this to Fix and maybe Healing or Cleaning, whatever you want. You can obviously rename it to whatever you want. Again, I'm also working with a Mac, so when I say Command, please press Control when you're a Windows user. Okay, so select the Fix layer. First of all, what I'll do is go back to Filter, Liquefy, and I just want to exaggerate these shoulders a little bit more. So I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger. I'm also working with a Wacom Continuous 5 Pro tablet. So via my tablet here, I can easily with the pen tool push these up a little bit and this one in a bit just want to create a really weird shape there, and a zombie looks all broken and weird. Maybe even the bone is broken up here. Not sure. But yeah, you guys get the point. First of all would be healing and liquefying. Okay, so that is done. And on the fix layer still, I want to still fix the C stand here that you basically see here in the shot. So again, click S on the keyboard. So we get into the clone stamp tool. We're sampling an area close by and just brushing over here. And if you're not familiar how to work with the clone stamp tool, have a look on the channel. Awesome, great beginner tutorials for you. Okay, I'm also going to press J on the keyboard in order to get to the healing brush. And slowly, just quickly trying to fix some of the ugly dust marks that I see here in my picture. So again, that is also one of the stages that I would do. But again, remember, obviously, we're adding a new background completely. It's supposed to look a bit grungy and ugly. So don't mind too much these dust marks here. I'm also doing things a bit quicker today because I don't want you guys to watch this or that this tutorial gets to 2 hours. So yeah, take a bit more time when you do your retouching. Okay, then next step would be now to add the background. Okay, I'm going to minimize this again and right away drag in my background. Okay, so again, over here we have the background. I'll drag it right away into Photoshop and hit enter as well. Now, it's also a smart object. You can keep it to a smart object. If you want, you can take it into Camera Raw, adjust it a little bit. I'm actually just going to say right click, rasterize layer, and keep it as is. Now, if you want to also have the working file, just have a look down below in the description. Is a link where you can download all of the working files for free from my website. What I'm only asking is that you maybe sign up for a newsletter. Now, next step would be here just to desaturate this, because obviously the zombie shouldn't have so much color in it. So again, first step would be going to the adjustment layers. Select the adjustment layer over here, and I'm going to go to hue and saturation adjustment layer. So right away it pops up here at the top. I'm first of all going to clip this just to the background. So hold Alt and go between the layers so that this easily clips now to this layer. Then under the saturation tab here on the hue and saturation adjustment layer, I'll just take the saturation under the master tones all the way down so it's just gray. Maybe I can take it slightly up again so there's just a bit of color. Okay, so under the master tones all the way out. Then next step would be now to just brighten the back, or actually darken the foreground here a little bit. But before we do that, we need to switch our background layer that it clips to our original image from the zombie. So let's check the blending options and switch that all the way to soft light. Great, and right away you guys can see it super easily applies to our background here because we again working with a 50% gray, charcoal gray backdrop. So it easily clips to the background. Okay, next step would be again, select the top layer, and I would right away now create a levels adjustment layer in order to darken just the floor a little bit. So let's go to adjustments, we go to levels adjustment layer, and the midpoint slide is here. Let's take them up a little bit, something like around here. I'm not focused too much on the background right now, just on the foreground here. So what I will do is with selecting the levels adjustment layer, I will also create a mask and basically an inverted mask. So it's all hidden. So pressing Command I, okay, invert all that. Okay, then let's zoom in. And now B with the brush, and make my brush nice and big. Hold Control Alt and check my hardness should be 0 and the opacity, please 100%. Now with a white foreground color, I'm just literally brushing in here at the bottom. Okay, and a bit more. And like so. Okay, also erasing this a little bit. So switch the foreground colors. And that's it. So I'm just trying to create a bit of an even light here on the background. Great. Next step would be now, again, creating a bit of a light spot behind the zombie. So for that, let's select the elliptical marking tool. I want to make nice big selection here, like kind of so. I don't want to let it fall too much onto the floor, so more or less behind her. Okay, like so. And now we obviously have to feather this a little bit. Let's go to Select, Modify, and Feather. And then now please feather it with 250 pixels. Hit OK, and just repeat the process again. Back to Select, Modify, and Feather once again. Hit OK, and right away that has been feathered. Now, next step would be going to the adjustment layers again, the panel here, and we're going to select the curves. So again, right away, select curves, and I'm going to take the dark midpoint sliders here and just turn them down a little bit like so. You guys can also get the values down here again. But now we obviously darken the inside. We wanted to kind of get a vignetting effect. So first what I'll do is duplicate the layer and then invert this current layer. So it's just adding a vignetting effect. Okay, so Command J, duplicate that layer. We're going to switch it off. Take this layer and also press Command I to invert again. And right away, have a look. Ta-da! We've got a really cool vignetting effect. Now, it might still be a bit too strong. Let's first of all select again our first layer here, or now the second. And we'll also go back to the levels. And first of all, take the dark parts up. Leave the anchor point over here, but take the highlights and push those a little bit. Okay, and it's obviously the opposite again. Okay, let's push that up a little bit more. Okay, like so. Also with this highlight over here. Yep, so the midpoint or the dark sliders here go up a little bit. And this one also. This we can still refine later as well. Great, so we've done that now behind the model. Obviously it's also on the model, but if we duplicate this layer now later, it will not be on the model anymore. So we will also need to duplicate this later. Let's take both of these and just press Command G, and we're just gonna write here light. So you guys know exactly what this is. So it's just adding a bit of effect here, just a spot onto our main image. Again, like I said, let's go back to the Curves 3 layer here, and we can always take the dark points up a little bit again in order to tweak our vignetting effect a little bit. Okay, great. Then last step now would be again, minimize all and take background, hue and saturation, levels layer and light, press Command G again. And we're also going to put that in a group and call it background. Great. So you've now added a completely new background, and that's it. So let's go back now again to fixing and healing. You guys can also see that I turned off this layer. That's because I want to do a master shortcut now over here and bring this layer all the way back to the top. So we can cut out only the subject. So let's press Command, Alt, Shift, and E all together, and right away you created a master shortcut. Now let's move this layer all the way back to the top. Select background again, and right away you guys can obviously see it's now on top. Now what I'll do is first of all cut out the subject. So I'll do this a bit quicker. I'll also fast forward. For this you can have a look at the tutorial Advanced Masking. It's also on our channel, where you get to learn every single step throughout the way. So first of all, it will be obviously taking again the quick selection tool. And with the quick selection tool, I'm just trying to cover everything here from the subject. Okay, so just select the subject. Then I will also again hold Alt, and with minus, going to subtract the areas that I do not wish to have. Okay, and then here is a small area. Yep, doing it quite roughly now. Again, covering the arm and a little bit over here. Okay, great. Then also let's select the hair a little bit more. So great. And now last step will be again creating a mask. But please guys, have a look at the tutorial Advanced Masking if you don't know how to do this. Next step with this would be clicking right click onto the mask of this and go to Refine Mask. Okay, with Refine Mask, right away a window pops up. Normally I work also a lot in the smart radius here, but for this tutorial, not at all, because it will cover quite a lot. Let's also press cancel and zoom in a little bit with Z. So I can actually show you guys here are a few mistakes here again, and also on the knife here on the thumb. Here we have a bit of a mistake. So let's hit right click, say refine mask, and I'm literally just going to go with the mask over this area and tell Photoshop, hey, please have another look at these areas, in order to, cut out the whole cutout a bit nicer. Okay, so we'll fast forward the video now a little bit and do this process. Again, like I said before, if you want to learn more about this, if you don't know the technique, have a look at Advanced Masking in Photoshop. Okay, I'm gonna hit OK, and right away Photoshop renders that for me. But again, as you guys can also see, some of the mask is not so clean. So I would now have to go in manually with brush, B on the keyboard, again make the brush a bit smaller, and with obviously a black foreground color here, I would have to paint it in very slowly, which I will not do now because it will just take too long for the tutorial. But please guys, when you do this retouch, take as much time as you can in order to get a really good mask on your subject here. That is a very, very important stage for the retouching part. Okay, let's zoom out again. So I think roughly it's good enough for the tutorial for some parts. Okay, let's actually change this again, and we'll just go in here as well. Yep, and zoom out again to get in order to the next retouching phase. Okay, so now we'll take layer 4. First of all, we rename this to subject. And also in a group, again, Command G, and put this also to subject. Now, you can obviously rename it to whatever you want. Now, first of all, we also applied a background light here. Again, the pop just to the background. So we need to also apply that to our subject. So select this layer, curves 3 copy, press Command J and duplicate this layer. And let's drag that all the way on top to our subject. I'm actually going to take it also one more up, so it's not in the subject group. Let's minimize this and also the subject. Now let's have a look. Here's the before and after, before and after. And it's a little bit too bright, so double tap again onto the curves layers, curves adjustment layer. And I'll just take down the sliders here and basically the curve just a little bit. Okay, so just placing the anchor points down a bit until you're happy. I don't want to have it so bright there. Just like a little pop on top of it. Then also in the adjustments now, we're going to move over into the color adjustment layers. So first of all, what I want to do is add a bit more contrast to this image. So let's go back to curves once more and just take the dark parts and let's just brighten them a bit more here. Also take the highlights and just place that back to the top just to add another contrast to the overall image, like so. Great, that might be a little bit too much, a little bit up again, but I'm happy with this. Okay, next up would be going back to adjustments and selective color adjustment layers. Now, first of all, not under the black tones, we're gonna work right away in the natural tones and tweak this image a bit. Now, this is a process where I play a lot. I try a lot of different colors out, and I do also a few adjustment layers with selective color in order to get a different effect. Please, guys, if you don't like my way of doing it, you can also try to do it with a different color effect. This is just my way of doing things. Okay, so with the cyan, first of all, I'll push also my sliders left and right and try to get a certain effect here and have a look what the colors give me. So again, right away, I can see here with the cyan, I'm going to stick with something like +4, +5. Okay, getting it a bit more to the bluer, greener side. And overall, I want to stick a bit more with green as well. Magentas, most probably down a little bit to get some more greens. So again, like a -3 to 4, that should work. Yellows, also, let's push them down a bit because I don't really like the yellows so much. I would to like a bit more green. So taking the yellows out first of all, and then later in another adjustment layer, I'll add some green back into this. Blacks, a bit more contrast. Push them up to like a +5 or 4. Great. Now, I'm going to move over to the black tones because obviously we have a lot of black tones in this image. So with the black tones, we can tweak a bit more in order to also get some nice color effects. So the cyan, let's push that down. A bit of a slight degraded red there, a bit of a flattened grade with -4. Magentas, let's have a look. Pushing those up a bit. I don't want to go too much into the blues and into the magentas, but I'll go like a +1 for this. Wow, it's already a big effect here. Again, before and after, before and after. Okay, yellows, let's also tweak those down a bit. And most probably the yellows also, the blacks to flatten that a bit. So like a -2 to 3, yes, -3, that's maximum I would go. And then the blacks also, let's tweak them down just a bit, just to flatten this. But this would just be most probably -1, -2, because I will always apply another contrast layer just in order to push the contrast up. Okay, great. So I kind of like that already. Now I'm going to go back to adjustments, back to selective color adjustment layers, and back into the neutral tones. Like I said before, I'll sometimes do this 2-3 times until I'm happy with the color adjustments. Now with the cyan, let's push those up a little bit, maybe to like a +8 or 9, giving it a really heavy contrasty look now. Magentas also, +2, 3. Okay, we're going a little bit more to the bluer side now, but don't worry, we'll change that in a minute. Yellows also, let's push those up a little bit so we get a bit more green, a bit more yellow in it again, like a +5, +6. Obviously, you guys can also see the values here on the side. Again, blacks, yep, let's brighten that a bit more with like a -2, -3. Let's have a look before and after, before and after. Again, another color change there. I'll actually change it to -3. Now, let's move back into the black tones. We'll do some more contrasty adjustments. Again, first of all, cyans, I'll push that up a little bit more, trying to get a bit more of that green bluish color going. There, up with like a +10 here. Okay, let's actually type that out, +10 there. Then magentas also, I think I'm going to go down with them to get a bit of the green going. -3. Yeah, -3 looks okay. Before and after, before and after. Okay, yellows also maybe down. Let's have a look. Yep, or up. I think I'll push those down a bit to like a -2 here. Okay, then also -2, there we go. The black still, also let's give it a bit more contrast. Yeah, like a +2. I'm going to stick with that. Again, let's have a look. Before and after, before and after. So again, like I said, I'm tweaking the colors a bit until I really like them. Sometimes it's not necessary to do both of these adjustments here. But sometimes I notice just via doing both of these adjustments, I do get a bit of a different greenish color. As you guys can see, when I turn off the bottom one, turn on the last one, and then I go toggle between these two, I can see that the color is slightly different. So it helps to create two of these selective color adjustment layers. Now, I still want to add a bit of contrast before I go to dodge and burn, but just remember dodge and burn adds a bit of contrast. So let's go back to adjustments. And we're going to go right away here to brightness and contrast. And now I'll take the contrast slightly up, like a +8 or 10. Actually turn it up all the way, and then we'll take it slowly down to like a +10 here. And that, yeah, I'm happy with that actually. Let's have a look. Before and after, before and after. Just a slight contrast onto that. Great. But now my final step would be desaturating the image just a little bit, because we have so much color and vibrance, and I just want to take it down slightly. So back to adjustments, back to hue and saturation, and in the master tones, I'll just take the red and basically the saturation slider, sorry, not the red, the masters, and turn this down all the way to like, yeah, let's turn it a bit more down, and then I'll slowly bring it back, 20, 16, 19. I really like it here between 20 and 19. So I'll stick with like -19 for this. Okay, take all of this again, with Shift on the keyboard, press Command G, and put this again together in a group and call this color and look. Okay, so our next step now would be dodge and burning. Again, for that, I'm going to create a new layer here from the new layer icon. I'll also take the elliptic and marking tool, or rectangular actually, make a whole selection over here, and then also going to hit M for marking tool, right click inside of the selection, go to fill, and fill it up with 50% gray. And I hit OK, press Command D, get out of the selection, and first of all, change my blending options back to soft light. Now, I'm going to rename this to D and B for dodge and burn, obviously, and press Command G, put that also together in a group under D and B for dodge and burn. Now, if you're not familiar with this, please have a look at this tutorial here. It's all about dodge and burning techniques, and that's what's coming up right now. I will also fast forward the video a little bit. For those of you who already know dodge and burn, then you don't need to sit here and watch me for ages do this. So basically, I'm going to select the brush, go left and right here via holding Control and Alt. I'm going to change the hardness back to 0 like every week. And then I'm going to change the opacity to 0.7. So it's this 7%. And now with black foreground color, I'm going to burn. And with white foreground color, I'm going to dodge. So I will also fast forward the video a little bit. Yeah, so you guys can obviously watch the tutorial to learn the technique. Or again, stick around and just have a look here how I do this. Okay, so let's zoom in and get started. Okay, black foreground color. And I'm basically just burning a little bit here on the face. Okay, before we also get into the long video here of retouching and obviously a dodge and burning, I just want to say that I will also burn the eyes quite a lot here in order to darken them just a bit more to get that moodiness out. Otherwise, I will stick again with all the saturated and all the shadow parts in order to burn, and all the highlights I will then again dodge. Okay, so let's start the fast forwarding process. Okay, so that's basically it again for the dodge and burn part. Now let's quickly have a look here if we just switch this on and off so you guys can see right away where I've dodged and where I've burned. I've also did this really quickly. Please take more time when you do this and refine this a bit better. This is in no means a very good dodge and burn. Now, what I would do is also, this dodge and burn is currently switched to the whole layer. So you guys can see I'm having a lot of spill here, which also falls again under the background. What you can do in order to not have this falling onto the background, just on your subject, you can basically take this layer, move it all the way down into the subject group over here, hold Alt and let that right away clip again to only the subject layer here. So again, you're only left with this layer and the dodge and burn only affects here on the front. Okay, so just a small hint there as well. Now, what I will do also, obviously I have to switch on all the layers now because I've switched off everything. Let's just turn off everything. Okay, and the color back on. And we're back to the dodge and burn. So I'll leave the dodge and burn group here so you guys know exactly what to do. But obviously there's nothing in there when you download the file. So it's obviously here in the dodge and burn now under the subject. Okay, then next step would be now to add a bit of a gray a background light effect to this. So normally what I'll do is maybe create it in the beginning, but I wanted to keep it a bit further out now and to only show it now. I'm going to go back to the background layer here. And obviously that is just our background. What we'll do is create first of all a new empty layer, and I'll just write here light. Okay, then also switch my foreground color here with X back to white foreground color. I'll select the gradient tool and as well go to the gradient setups here and the themes. So I'll basically select again white or foreground to transparent. And because our foreground color is currently white, so I'll select that. And then as well, I'm going to select here instead of linear, I will select the straight gradient, which is called reflected gradient. Okay, and I'll just make a stripe like so. Great, you can already see it, it's behind our model here. So I've basically made just a small stripe like that. I'm going to press Z, zoom out a little bit, and I basically want to create a few light rays that are behind the subject. So again, I'm going to press Command T, rotate this a little bit, and move this over to somewhere over here. Rotate this a bit more. And I'm going to place my first light over here. Press Enter. Okay, that is firstly adjusted. And then I'm going to press Command J, duplicate this, and move this a bit down. And again, Command J, and we're going to have a third one over here. So it's kind of like a gutter shining through from the top. And she's in some gully or some bunker or something. And the light falls there behind her. So again, take light copy to, light copy and light. Press Command G all together. And I'm also going to rename this now to background light, like so, and hit enter. And now what I'm going to do is just take the opacity of this main group here all the way down. Okay, so something like so. As well, what I'll do is maybe go back in and switch these to soft light. Let's have a look here. Yeah, that looks a bit better. So switch all of them with the blending option soft light. Great, like so. And now again, background light, we can tweak up the opacity a little bit more, depends on how strong you want this effect to be. So I'm going to stick around with like a 30, also go back into the groups and just with the move tool, bring those a bit closer together. Okay, like so, and bring this a bit in. So this you can obviously customize and try to create some more different effects with this, or even from a different angle. Again, play a little bit there with your gradients. So that's again how I add the light to the background. We're now going to move over to the grunge effect. I'm also going to go very quickly through the grunge effect. If you want to learn more about this, have a look at the last week's tutorial. We showed you exactly there how to get a gritty / grunge effect in Photoshop. Okay, so first step would be again master shortcut, Command Alt Shift and E, and again all together. Now we're going to invert this with Command I. Switch the blending options all the way to vivid light and go to filter, go to blur, surface blur, and I'm going to blur this with radius 50 and threshold 30. I'm going to hit OK and Photoshop is going to render that. Also guys, please have a look at this tutorial here if you want to learn this a bit more with a slower pace. Okay, that has been applied. We're going to go back to adjustments and we're going to go to hue and saturation adjustment layer, take the master tones all the way down so we are left just with a gray image. Okay, I'm going to switch off everything and also, actually I'm going to switch everything on again. We need that layer. I'm now going to hold again Command Alt Shift and E together and this will be our grunge effect. Okay, So grunge it is. And I want to delete hue and saturation and layer 4 and switch this grunge layer now all the way over to soft light. And right away, have a look, we've applied a really gritty, grungy effect. You can also switch it obviously to hard light to make it even more heavier. It's quite heavy already under soft light. Also, I'm going to take the opacity a bit down because I don't want this to be so strong. So maybe something like, let's start with 50, and then I'm slowly going to take it up all the way to 60, 70%. Okay, before and after, before and after. Great. Next step now, again, Command G, put this together in a group, and I'm just going to write here gritty/grunge effect. Okay, so next step again will be also some last color adjustments and the final touch up. So again, I'm going to go back again to adjustments, back to selective color adjustment layer, and first of all into the neutral tones once again. Now, I do this also to tweak the image still slightly a bit. Sometimes I add a bit of contrast still, some light pop, just to get last 20% out of this image. Again, cyan, let's have a look here. I'll just take this down slightly, like a -1, -2, getting some reds in there too. Okay, magentas, I'm actually happy with that. Gonna keep that to 0. Blacks as well, and yellow maybe. Gonna push those up, but just a bit more to get some green. Rather a little bit down, some more blues, like a -1. It's very, very subtle moves that I do in here, and just try to get if I can get another pop or another really nice color effect in here. Again, let's also move into the black tones and also tweak these up a little bit more. So a little bit more cooler here, like a +2, 3, +3 is actually good enough for the cyan. Magentas, I'm going to go also down a bit, all the way down, and then let's bring them up slowly. So we have a bit of a green color cast in there as well, like a -2 would actually be good enough. Again, guys, you can obviously tweak this until you are happy, or you can leave this stage out. This is not a must. As well, yellows, I'm going to take this up a little bit, like a +2 or 3 here. Okay, let's have a look quickly before and after. So a bit more green now in there. And I think I'm going to go over now once more into the red tones, just in order to get the reds out of her skin a little bit. So let's go work a little bit with the cyan. Okay, I'm going to go with down like a -7 or 6. It's very subtle here on the skin to see. Also play with the magentas. Okay, all the way down, all the way up. Again, on the skin, you get to see this a bit. So I want to flatten her skin a bit. Let's take it down like a -20, -18. Okay, yellows, push those up a little bit, just slightly like a +2 or 3. Yeah, that's good enough. And let's have a look what the blacks give us. A bit more contrast there actually. So I'll push those up to like a 40 to 50. Again, it's very subtle moves, and it's not always necessary to do these. If you're happy with the color now already, you can also stick with that. I still wanted to add a bit of a greener touch because it was slightly too blue here in the beginning. Okay, next step would be also working again with the channel mixers. I would like to just experiment with this. So I'm going to go back to the adjustments and channel mixer over here. I'm going to stay in the red channels, the output. But let's have a look if we're going to play a little bit more with the greens and also the blues. Let's push those down a bit. Yeah, okay, just a lot of blue there. I'm going to push them up slightly to like a +6, +7 here. Okay, and as well, the blues, let's also push those down. Yeah, we're getting more and more greener color in there, so like a -3. Again, let's have a look here before and after. Okay. Both of these layers again into a group. Maybe I also, okay, I want to put them into a group and just write here color pop 2. And I will still go back in here and take the adjustment layers and take the hue and saturation adjustment layers and just turn down the saturation a little bit more. So like a -8, -9, that's good. Okay, so just desaturating that slightly. Great, so that's basically it. Last step would be, if you want to, you can still add a bit of a text effect onto the background. So we can go all the way back to our background layer here. And in the background, we can still type a text out. So I'm going to select T on the keyboard, make a nice big selection here. And I'll just write out now zombie for the zombie effect, obviously. Make it nice and big. Also taking my letters here, make it nice and big. But I first want to choose a new font. For that, I'll go back to the font picker here. And I will most probably work again here with Helvetica Neue. And I will also work not with thin. I will go to bold. So let's select bold over here. And I will also like to take out the leaning, the italic. So let's go to the character box and I'll take out the italic over here. Great. Okay, so let's make this a bit bigger. Scale it up. And also our selection a bit bigger, so we have enough space. And make it a bit more bigger, so this obviously depends, you can make it smaller, something into the background. Now, zombie, it's a slightly too big. A little bit down again, and hit OK. Great. Now I'm going to move it behind my subject here, somewhere around here, but we'll also change the blending options of this to overlay. Let's go to the blending options, overlay, and right away that applies to the background. And again, if it's still too strong, remember you can always take the opacity here and tweak it down a little bit more. Obviously, you can also take this all the way down to here, here, or somewhere else. Yeah, down here it's a bit too strong, but down here it also looks kind of nice. I'm going to keep it back to the top here again. So yeah, again, minimize this, go back to the top, Command, Alt, Shift, and E, master shortcut. I'm going to double tap and rename this to Final. Yeah, so that is basically it for the Halloween retouching. A bit long, but again, you can learn a few more things here for free. So yeah, if you're like me and just can't get enough of Photoshop, then click on your screen right now to subscribe. We send out free Photoshop and photography tutorials every single week. And if you still want to stay in touch and leave us some feedback, then let us know right away in the comment section down below, or send us your tutorial request right away to tutorials@retutpro.com. So thanks again guys for watching. I'll catch you all in the next tutorial. And you are still here! So that most probably means you want to see some more tutorials, or maybe you're interested to download this video including the work file. Then wait, no longer, check down below in the description is a link directly to the website where you can download the work file including this tutorial for free. And now guys, if you want to see some more popular stuff, maybe something from Foxy Hipster, or maybe something from the Gritty Effect, then just have a look here on the right hand side are some more tutorials just for you.